Welcome back. Alright, so now we're ready to code our new model, our fire pit, and if you remember when we click on this and have a look in here, we have logs that are hidden in here, and now we need to make it all work when the player runs on it. So with our fire pit model, what we'll do is click on the plus sign and add a script in here. Alright, and this will be our fire pit script. There we go. And it's going to manage everything to do with our fire pit. Alright, so the first thing that we need to know is the bit that the player is going to touch is the base. Okay. However, I put the script inside the model. So how do we work that out? Well, let's have a look. If we say, we'll call it base, and we could just put it in the base, but this will help you work out how to do it. If we type in script, so where it is, alright, we could try to just say base, okay, because it's below, but that doesn't work. So what we actually have to do is come to script.parent, which is the fire model, and the base is a child of this. So once we've got to parent, we can then say base. Alright, so we have to come up to the parent of whichever part it is we want to refer to. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. But this is the bit that the players are going to touch when they run onto it. So because we're working with touch, we'll add a debounce value, okay, and set that to true. And then we'll add our touch function. So base.touched colon, okay, connect function, and we'll add in which part of the character is touching in here. Now we need to get our character, which will be hit.parent, and we'll get the humanoid. So we're looking in the character. Okay, so find first child humanoid. Then we have our conditional statement. So if humanoid and DB, then we can go ahead with our code. The first thing we want to do is get our player. So game.players, okay, find first child. We can just say character.name. Alright, now let's have a think about what stats this needs to know. So basically, we need to know when the player runs onto the fire pit, okay, so onto the base, do they have a log or not? And if you remember, this is in the player vars folder, the hidden one. So let's use that one for a start. So local p vars equals, okay, and we want to look in the player for this. And remember, we want to use wait for child, okay, player vars, because we want to get the folder. So this represents the folder first. Then we want the player has log equals, okay, player vars find first child has log. So then we can have a conditional statement here that says if player has log dot value, so if that's true, then we want to run the code. And what do we want to run inside here if they have a log? Well, the first thing that we want to do is take the log off them, alright, so they don't have a log anymore. So we can change this value to be false. Okay, so that then allows the player to run off and get another log. However, one thing we didn't do up here is change our dB value. So dB equals false. Alright, just make it run just once, and within this one we'll put down here just a standard wait of a couple of seconds, and we'll set dB back to true. Alright. So back inside of here again, we've taken the log off the player. Okay, we don't need to adjust anything to do with their count, because that's all looked after by when we pick up the log, but we do need to make these logs down here appear. Now, there's a couple of ways that we can do that. We can create a variable for each one, or we can gather them all together and look through them with a loop, which is a new thing that we haven't talked about. So let's do that now, and up the top we'll create a new variable for a start. We'll say local all logs. So we're going to get all of the logs inside of this log model. And how do we find that? Well, think where we are in the script. Remember, we want to go script.parent, all right, and then .log model. And once we get to the log model, there are three things within this. We want to gather them all together and then look through them and determine which one we want to show. So we can use another method by putting a colon, and you'll see a whole bunch of them pop up here. We're going to say get children. So remember, we use find first child, which is looking for one. Well, this one gets all the children underneath this log here and puts them into a table, okay, which is held in this all logs variable. So follow me along here. All right. Now we've got 3 logs, and our fire pit doesn't know how many logs the player has collected, etc., but it does know how many it started with. So we could make a variable up the top here that's just for the fire pit at the moment. All right, so we could say fire pit count, all right, equals, and it starts off at 0. Then remember, we take down here, we're taking the log off the player, but we're adding one to the fire pit count now. So let's increase that. So fire pit count, and we don't have to put value here, equals fire pit count plus 1. All right. Now there's a couple of other checks we should put in here, because remember, the player should only collect 3 logs. So what if they collect, you know, a log and then they run off and they get another one, they go to 4 logs? Well, we don't want this to happen if that's the case. So let's put in a conditional statement here that says if fire pit count is greater than, less than or equal to 2, then we will add 1 to fire pit count. Now the reason I put 2 here is because when the code runs the first time, it'll be 0 and we'll add 1. Then when they bring back another log, it'll be 1, so it's still 2, so that it'll add to 2. And when they get back and it's equal to 2, it'll come in here and it'll go 3. So the next time it won't work. All right, you'll have enough logs to continue. So just to check that and give the player a bit of feedback, you have already collected all the logs, or collected enough logs, say. Alright, as a little message. So remember what we're doing with this. With the fire pit count, when this gets increased to 1, okay, that's the cue to say, well, we want to show log 1, and then when it goes to 2, log 2, etc. So we need to look through this table that we created up here of all logs and change the transparency of the one that we need. So we can do that. There's a couple of ways we can do it, but in here we're going to use a loop, all right? A simple for loop. So a for loop has 3 parts. The first part is called an iterator. So we start off at 1. We want to start at 1. Tables in Roblox start at 1 as their index, so the first thing in the table. Actually, no, we'll do it differently. My apologies. Let's go for, we're going to look through this. So for I, okay, each log. So we're going to look at each log in the table, and we use in pairs. This is a special kind of loop where it will look at the index and it'll look at the contents of the table as well. All logs, okay, so we're looking through all of the logs, and then we type do. Alright, so for you to get an idea of how this works, let's do a little test right now, and we're going to print out I, so when it increases, and we're going to print out each log just to see what it looks like. Okay, so let's click on play and test what we've done so far. Let's run over our log. We've got a log, okay, and we can't get another one. Come over here, and there we go. You'll see that it's come up with log 1, log 2, log 3. Alright, with a number next to it. We're going to make use of that now. Alright, so we won't just print it out. The number that we care about is this one here. So if it matches 1, then we want log 1, 2, 3, etc. So we can use a conditional statement. So if fire pit count, okay, equals I, then now I, that's this number over here on the left, increases each time the loop runs, okay? So if fire pit I, okay, equals I, so when I comes in, fire pit will be 1 because we just increased it to 1, so I will equal 1, then we want to show the first log. The next time it comes in, I will go 1, and then it'll go to 2, okay, and fire pit count will be equal to 2, so then this will run. Alright, I hope you're following this. Just copy it down, and hopefully it'll sink in, but it's a good way to do this. Okay, so if fire pit count equals 1, then because we're looking at each log, we want to change each log dot transparency, okay, to 0. Okay, so let's save that. Make sure you've got this down correctly, and then let's play and see if that actually happens. Alright, so we run over this, pick up our log, come onto here, and there's our first log. Run over a log again because we can now pick up another one. Our log count's gone up to 2. There's our second log. Run over this one on here, there's our third log, and oh, we've gone to 4. You have already collected enough logs. Now the reason that's happening is because we haven't put that condition in our log over here. So remember our log script, we need to put in a condition here that's similar to the other one. Alright, so in here instead of just having if log is false, we can put in here and player log count dot value, okay, is less than or equal to 3. So, sorry, equal to 2. That'll be less than or equal to 2, because each time this value doesn't get added till it gets to here. So by the time this gets updated, we want to come in here, and when it gets to 3, okay, then it won't work after that. So let's try that again and see if we can stop the player picking up logs. So we've got 1 log, and we run onto the fire pit and it shows up. 2 logs, okay, 3 logs, and now I can't pick up the log anymore, and our fire is ready to go. Alright, so there was a bit of coding in there with some new things in it. Make sure you've got all that down and working correctly, okay, and we will move on in the next video once you've got that all saved. Make sure when you do get this all working that you come up here and go File, Save As, and increase your version, because you don't want to lose all that hard work. Alright, I shall see you in the next video.